and welcome to the Love How Deep podcast with Brian and Heather Mayer. Our purpose is to equip married couples like you with resources that rely on the transformative power of God's Word to strengthen your relationship.
Well, thank you so much for joining us again for another episode of the Love How Deep podcast. And I know Heather and I really want this to be a place where you can come and listen, and most of all, connect with each other and connect with God, I would say is what we're really hoping for. And
That's right.
We're really excited about today's podcast. We're going to be talking a lot about how to thrive in business and marriage together. And I would like to ask Heather, would you like us to be the ones to talk about this today? Because we are in business together, right?
Not today.
Not today?
No, we're going to have our friends Trevor and Jenny Walker on today to talk about kind of the ups and the downs, the ins and outs of starting a business together and being married and not killing each other, and maybe some things going really, really well. And hopefully they've got some good nuggets to share with all of us.
Good, bad, and ugly, really.
Yeah, the good, the
what we're
bad, and
looking
the
for
ugly,
here.
always. But we've been friends with Trevor and Jenny for 15 years and really have seen their family grow up, and just seeing the way that the two of them are such good people, such good friends, and good Christians, godly people, and just supporting everyone around them. And yeah, so we're excited to have them on.
Yeah, so welcome, Trevor and Jenny. How are you?
Excellent. I think we lost you for a quick second. It was such a good introduction.
Yeah.
We are Trevor and Jenny Walker, and we're thrilled and honored to be asked to be a part of this. We haven't been in business together long, but we have done life together for a long time and had lots of endeavors we've done for a long time. This is the first time we've kind of done it where it's our source of income together as a small business, and we're learning the ropes ourselves. We're really only into it a solid year, but 2 years if you count the time that we kind of went part-time. We started kind of dabbling our toes in the water to start out. So we're excited to share whatever we can today.
Yeah, and we both saw a lot of the work that you were doing when you were kind of doing that little side gig, and we were just super impressed with
Cutting
everything you
boards
were
and
doing.
shelves.
Yeah.
Moved on to
Yep.
furniture pieces, and now you're installing cabinetry and doing all kinds of.
Yep, it's definitely went bigger and much faster than we anticipated.
Yeah, no doubt. So, you got a question for them? Let's put them on the hot seat.
I think you just put me on the hot seat. Am I doing that?
Sure, why not?
So, since you did kind of bring it up that you've only done this for a year and 2 years, both of you together. How did this kind of come to be for the two of you leaving your careers and deciding to do this together?
Yeah, so we, have always loved handling home decor projects for our own home. And we always really enjoyed, it just seemed like a fun way to use our creativity together and to spend time together. And we loved, the way it was just fun to see the finished product at the end. And it seemed to stretch different muscles in our marriage than almost anything else we did together. And so when we started doing it, we kind of just felt like, this is fun. It was kind of a hobby. It was kind of a stress reliever. And mostly Trevor just got into the woodworking and he really enjoyed it. But then we quickly saw how I was able to use some of my creativity alongside with him. And so we just started experimenting with different things. And that grew to us doing it part-time and just selling some of the things that he had made and I had kind of cast my vision on. And it just kind of little by little kind of took on a life of its own. And like I said, it was just organic, if you will. In the beginning, it just kind of happened out of a hobby. But as time wore on, we kind of really were sensing that it was time for a transition out of our previous place of employment. And so we were just like, this could be us finding not only a way to provide for our family, but also for us to do something that we really enjoy. Yeah. And we love being a part of other people's homes and families. And that's something that is very exciting and inspiring for us in general, and always has been. So this kind of put the best of both worlds together. And so yeah, that's kind of how we got started.
It was about 2 years ago, and her and I were standing in our kitchen, and we were feeling strongly like something was supposed to change, and things weren't quite going the way that we had, planned for them to go. And we just took a minute, and we were like, hey, let's just pray and ask God to open up a door. And we prayed. It was about 10 p.m. after a small group Bible study we had at our house. And pretty much within a couple of hours, it was actually a long story that we won't share here today, but in the middle of the night, God pretty much provided a path for us to find a new future. And at the time, I had recently sold my first shelf. I made a little decorative shelf. I sold it for $40 on Facebook Marketplace. And I was like, well, maybe, we can stretch $40 into something more. And so we decided it might have looked like we jumped in headfirst into the river of this business thing, but really it started extremely slow, extremely small. We would do one project, and then the next project would be a little bit bigger, a little bit more involved, to the point we were just kind of like making extra money for fun things, like maybe Christmas presents or vacation or whatever.
I beg to differ with that.
Yeah, or maybe it was to buy the more tools I needed for the bigger project. Yeah,
that's what it really was.
There
You
was
can't buy more gear.
Yeah, we have to outfit and everything. So it slowly turned from that into, okay, I can make enough, in a few days that could help us potentially live. And so I went part-time at my previous job, and just slowly but surely kept working this business to be bigger, or not even so much bigger, but as self-sustainable pretty much, where we could make a living and take care of our family. So it was a slow process. It did take a couple of years for us to go from, hey, I built a shelf, to we can survive off of the income.
Yeah.
Wow. And definitely when we did go full time, it was a huge step of faith, because we were nowhere near close to being able to support our family
in a comfortable way.
Yeah. I mean, we had savings, and we had pretty much anything he had made money on, we had either used to buy equipment or we had saved. We hadn't spent any of it over the course of like 2 years maybe. And so we had some savings, but we really had no idea if this would be enough, selling, tables and charcuterie boards and random projects, if that would be enough for us to live on. And God, oh my gosh, he met us so faithfully to just, it seemed like our books filled up almost miraculously, unbeknownst to us, with very little advertisement. And it was not with friends and family. It was really with strangers off of Facebook Marketplace. And it just, I'm telling you, we have no way that we could take responsibility for it, because it was 100% just the Lord providing.
And continues to be that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing.
Wow, that is amazing. I just love the humble beginnings of all of this, and kind of reminds me of that passage. I don't know where it is, but it talks about don't despise the small beginnings. And you certainly do that. You just took it one little step at a time, and loved how, I think Dave Ramsey, the financial guru, would probably be very proud of you too for not incurring a bunch of debt to try to get this thing started, but just take it slowly but surely.
So I
sure.
Yeah.
I heard you say just a few minutes ago that like in the beginning, it was like, we're just going to sell this shelf, and like, where's the money off of that? You kind of talked about how things started so slowly, and just a little bit is trickling in. And how did you keep from getting discouraged through all of that, of like, God, what are you going to do with this? Like, you've given me this passion to do woodworking and building and things like that. So how do you stay positive in that when you feel like?
Well, we tend to be discouraged very easily. Jenny deals with depression. I deal with anxiety, and so that's that's a bit of a mess to try and start something from, like what we're doing. And
Yes, how'd you do it?
the saving grace is I only had bad days on her good days, and she only had bad days on my good days. So as long as one of us
I love it.
were,
You balance each
saying
other.
we're gonna make it, we had hope.
But I would also say in the beginning, if we sold something for $40 or $50, we were just ecstatic. We were like, oh, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. We made a little money on the side. Like it wasn't in the beginning our plan to go out and be self-sustainable.
Okay.
And so by the time we did make the decision, like, okay, we're leaving our previous career that we've been in for 23 years and we're heading into this completely different realm of being contractors. I don't even think we would have known to call ourselves contractors.
No, not at all.
We just said he makes things with wood and I can help you
Decorate
it. Yeah, like we didn't even have the right wording to call it. That's how naive we were.
Wow.
So anytime we sold something, we were just excited. It wasn't until later that we recognized we were going to try to support our family that it was like, oh, this is going to feel a lot different than just being excited that I sold something for $40 or $50.
Right.
So the stress didn't come until we did go full time. But like I said, God was so faithful to just, I don't know, he just, between allowing us to have confidence in our savings and the fact that he's never let us down, from that to then our calendar filling up for like 2 or 3 months, we were like, wow, God's meeting us in a way we didn't even envision. And so the discouragement I felt like came later, more in the form of projects that had big hiccups that we didn't anticipate or we hadn't encountered before. Challenges working with other contractors, which was, again, like, why would we ever think we'd be working with other contractors? Because all we did was build tables and shelves. Like, so it grew so fast that we were suddenly like, oh, we need other contractors who do tile and who do flooring and who do electrical and painting and plumbing. And so, we were having to trust other people and other people's work. And we just were so outside of our own realm. So that is where the stress came more than anything, and the discouragement, because it was so far outside of our own skill set.
For sure. And I think even the discouragement, we've always been used to that, because I think the both of us are very easily discouraged in general. It's kind of one of our major flaws among several others. We're easily discouraged. But the bigger challenge we have met in that regard, I think, is what we've learned to call imposter syndrome. It's where you feel like you're faking it, or like you don't belong the places you are at. And at first we were like, we would pull up to these multi-million-dollar houses and they're wanting us to do their kitchen remodel or built-ins, and we're looking at each other like, we don't belong here. We don't know what we're doing. If we screw up, this is a nice place to screw up. And so for a while we were like, man, we were really battling this imposter thing. But as we kind of connected with other small business owners and other small contractors, we quickly learned that that's really a common thing for small business owners in general to face. I don't know if it's insecurities or fears or what, but a lot of small business owners have this sense of, I don't really belong here.
Yeah.
And
I don't have what it takes.
I don't have what it takes, or maybe I'm having to fake this. And we value authenticity so much. We want to be real. We don't want to be fake about anything. And so if we step into a $2 million house, we feel like, do we acknowledge the fact that we're in this multi-million-dollar house, or do we just say, hey, nice house? It was such a big change for us to have to walk through feeling like we don't belong in these places, where really, truthfully, God has been putting us in places that, yeah, maybe we don't belong there, but God has placed us there. And so we're just trying to be diligent, work hard, and help people as best we can.
Yeah. And I do think he was asking us to steward a gift that he had given, that we hadn't even fully acknowledged was from him. We kind of, I think in the beginning we thought we had just kind of come up with it on our own, but I mean, there's truthfully nothing that you can do that is separate from what a gift or talent that God has given you. And so I think getting to the place where in the beginning when we were trying to sell why we were the right person for the job or why, they should choose us over a different company. That felt so slimy to us, just like any kind of salesmanship felt really slimy to us. But when we really started to own the fact this is a door of opportunity that God's given us, and if he wants us to have it, then he'll open the door and they'll choose us, and if they don't, then that's not where we want to be, and that's not the job that we want.
We still pray that every Friday when we go out and do quotes. That's our quote day. We pray before we even leave our neighborhood. God, would you open doors you would have open and close any doors you'd have closed? And so far, he has been faithful in all of that.
Yeah.
I love
Wow.
that.
That's so good. Thank you for sharing all that. And I don't know, the one thing I picked up on was the imposter syndrome. And I think Heather and I both deal with that
Yeah,
as well.
we do.
I know in my counseling practice, I deal with it a lot. But I'm sitting here and somebody has chosen to sit next to me and try to take advice or to bounce ideas off of me. And I get that all the time. Like, who am I to be doing this? And then also, I think you and I have this doing what we're doing
Absolutely.
right now.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've not written a book and I don't have a degree in marriage counseling or anything like that. I mean, I have the training and the practice of what we've done through the ministry at the church, and I have this passion that's birthed from the hurt that I experienced years ago. And so, I mean, that's kind of all I have after, as far as initials after my name. Like, so who am I to come in and say, we would like to lead a marriage conference? Like we've written the conference out, but who are we to do that? Like, we're not pastors. So we definitely struggle with that imposter
yeah.
syndrome.
Sure.
Yeah,
But
and I know probably a lot of people that are listening do as well.
I think
And
so.
I did want to ask you to running a business together, obviously you've got your professional relationship, you've got your personal relationship. Are there any obstacles you have to navigate? Have there been any pitfalls? How do you do it? Have you figured it out?
Well, we are figuring it out. We do better some days than others. At first, it was all blurred together. It was just big jambalaya of life, of business and life and kids and bills and grocery shopping. And we're just like, where do we find a really nice center of how we're going to manage all this? And maybe you can speak better to that than I can.
Yeah, I think I struggled with it more than Trevor did because it was such a drastic change to my schedule and specifically my autonomy. So I had been working part-time for a number of years, and before that, I was a stay-at-home mom for about 15 years. So to suddenly be full-time with Trevor and everywhere he went, I went, I felt like I really lost my autonomy. Like I wasn't even driving on my own. Like we were riding together to whatever job site we were going to, or if we were going to Lowe's to buy supplies, like we were together all the time. So I suddenly felt like I had zero autonomy. And I am an introvert and I need absolutely to have time alone. And so to have all of that suddenly gone, I really struggled in the beginning. And it wasn't necessarily the matter of working full time. It was just the matter of I don't have a say in how I spend my time at all. I don't have a say over, the path we drive to work or, the time we leave for work, or I just really struggled with that. And so what we did was we started to make it to where on the jobs that were closer to home, we would drive separate. And it really helped me to again just have a few minutes in the car alone before we got to wherever we were going. It helped me to feel like if I had an emergency with the kids, I could leave if I needed to. I will say we had one specific argument that preempted.
Was before.
Yes, thank you. preempted that decision, and we were at a job and it was going significantly longer than we thought it was going to. And we were out, about, I don't know, 45 minutes from home. And so I think it was about, I don't know, 6:45 at night, maybe 7:45 even. And we were trying to finish the job that day so we didn't come back another day and make the job another day longer than it was supposed to go. And so I knew the kids were at home. I knew they were hungry. I knew they were wondering where we are. And that's what my brain is thinking of.
Mm.
And Trevor is thinking, I have to finish this job today. I can't afford to come back another day. And so that's what his brain is focused on. And so I said to him, I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm done with my portion of my contribution to this job. So it's time for me to just go. And he was like, well, we can't do that. We have to stay and finish this job. And I said, well, one of us has to go home and take care of the children. And he thought I was being really disgustingly rude in the sense of, well, you don't care about our children, but at least one of us has to, or I'm the only one who ever does. And I was just trying to communicate that either you do it or I do it, but somebody has to do it. And so it was a pretty harsh conversation where we really had to, hash that out and recognize where each other was coming from. And so I was like, we have to set some boundaries around this to where we don't just come home at 9 o'clock at night and ignore our family. We're not going to stay in people's homes till 8 o'clock at night. We're going to respect their boundaries in their home as well and say they have things to do. And so
I'm a bit of a workaholic.
yeah, because he's a workhorse. He wants to stay until it's done. He wants to be able to check off that list that it's finished.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was a
I
challenge.
thought you were going to bring up the time where we had a 45-minute drive to the job site one morning. And so we stopped at Wawa, we got coffees, and we're in the car. We have a 45-minute drive. And so I said, all right, let's talk about the game plan. She goes, no, I'm going to drink my coffee and I'm going to look at my Facebook for 45 minutes. You're not going to talk. And we'll discuss the game plan when we get to the job site. And I was like, okay, I guess that's how we're going to navigate this.
Yeah. Because what had happened is we'd gotten to the place where it was infiltrating every minute of our day and evening and in the middle of the night. Sometimes he'd wake up and be like, oh my gosh, Jenny, and he'd nudge me and say something. And so it was like, before bed, before we fall asleep, first thing in the morning, on the drive, during the day, it was just infiltrating everywhere. And so, me saying to him in the car at that moment sounded really harsh and kind of rude for me to be like, no, we're not talking about this right now. But it was, again, just me trying to express, like, I'm struggling with the fact that this is infiltrating everything. So there have to be moments where we say, okay, this isn't a place where work comes in.
Ultimately, for me, though, it is about fear because
Yeah.
I'm worried about, okay, I don't have a consistent paycheck like I've had my entire life. And if I don't get out there and work, I mean, the Bible says you don't work, you don't eat. And I love to eat. So, I was, constantly worried and fearful that if we're not working on it, then we're not going to, be able to have income. And so I have gotten a little better about the fear thing. At least I can recognize when it's creeping up.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it's definitely all about navigating that balance of or the boundaries, and I can totally see where both of you are coming from on this issue. So it's all about how do we respect each other, talk through this, figure it out together. And
one of the things I've learned to kind of cope with the blurred lines is for me to just simply say, is this wife Jenny or is this partner Jenny, business partner Jenny?
Yeah.
And if she says this is business partner Jenny, and she's really, different than she would be as a wife in that moment, it's a lot easier to kind of navigate the blurriness of it all.
Yeah. Because I do think the way you function in a workplace and the way you function, at home with your spouse can look very different. It's very different aspects of your personality. And so, I have had to say several times when we're working that, he thinks that I am being brash or harsh or something like that. And I'm just like, no, this is work, Jenny. It's just direct. It's just, this is my opinion. This is how I want to do this. And for him, I think delineate as much between work Trevor and home Trevor. You're very much the same across the
I've
board.
always kind of done that.
Yeah. And so it's just a different way of functioning, and neither one is right or wrong, but it was helpful for him to know, okay, she does operate very differently in a workplace environment than she does at home, which you wouldn't know unless you were working together.
Yep.
Yeah. I like that. And it makes me think about Heather. I need to ask you at times, is this mom Heather coming at me or wife Heather? Because sometimes she will
Mom
she
Heather,
will
what?
share she will share with me my shirt is wrinkled. And if
Oh,
I'm viewing
bless.
her as mom Heather, I get very
Yeah.
irritated. But if I view her
Yeah.
as wife Heather that loves me,
Mhm.
then I'm like,
Yeah.
immediately, oh yes, I've got to iron this shirt.
Yes,
So
you need to go iron your shirts, Brian.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
You had asked at one point, was there a meaningful moment? And
yeah.
interesting for me, one of the moments for us that was so meaningful was we had this wonderful customer. She's
She was actually the first person to trust us.
that's true. Yeah,
Like we
with a big project.
Okay.
yes, she was our first customer as we went full time.
Yes, and so we had done some bigger projects with her, and then she called us back for some small little handyman things, and I was like, you know what, she's a wonderful lady, she's great to work with, sure, I'll come hang some curtains, is what it was. And we were hanging some curtains in her house, and she kind of just sat down next to us while we were hanging these curtains and curtain rods, and she began to talk about her divorce and how challenging things had been, and she really opened up to us. We're pretty much strangers. I mean, she didn't know us, we don't know her, but she began to talk about her life and her struggles, and it was such an awesome moment because Jenny was able to give her some advice and counsel. We were able to pray with her about
Wow.
her life situations, and we were on the drive home, and I'm like, man, I was planning on hanging curtains today for a few bucks, but God had decided that today was a day we could be an encouragement and a spiritual partner with somebody
Oh,
in their
that's
home where they're vulnerable. And I just love that moment. I think about it often.
Yeah.
Yes, and it was super meaningful because I think for us with our background in church ministry, we assumed going into this that that part was left behind, if you will. And so this was such a different place, and yet as she started to share, it was really obvious to us that God didn't leave that part behind, and there was still going to be very clear times where you're in somebody's home, their safe place, and just the fact that they're willing to trust you to come in kind of makes them feel a little bit vulnerable, and we want to be respectful of that, of course, but if they start sharing on their own, to be able to empathize and pray with them. And she was a believer. We weren't sharing that became really evident. We weren't sharing our faith with her. It was just a matter of just saying, I've been through some hard things too, and I can see it's different than the hard things that you've been through, but God is so faithful. And it was just, I don't know, it was I think it might have blessed us even more than it blessed her. I don't know. But we just, like I said, we thought that part of our story was a closed chapter. And yet God made it really clear to us it wasn't a closed chapter. It was just going to look very different
Yeah.
than it had before.
And we're walking into people's homes of people we would never have been able to know or to reach or to talk to before all this. People of all kinds of faith, Hindus and Muslims and heathens and just so many
favorite.
yeah, just so many places that we would have never been before. And just God continues to put us places where we don't deserve, we don't belong, but yet we still every day wake up and say, God, use us where you put us,
Yeah.
and the rest is up to Him.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love that it was the first big job that you had, that God was like, I'm going to use you in this today. And I'm combining, me, like God, he's combining God with what he's blessed you with in this business together. It's like, it's your ministry, and
Sure.
just how he just smiled on you in that moment. Like, I'm still using you.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That's amazing. What a cool story.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful that, yeah, you shared that, because my assumption was going to be that maybe you're going to talk about this amazing, you know, shelving unit you built, or, whatever it might be. And yeah, it just kind of circle back around to people, because, people are what really matter. And
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
sure.
really are. And they've all, people have always been a passion for us. And, we say that what we do is home decor, but what we really feel like is we want your home to be your refuge and we want it to reflect who you are. It's not about being, current or hip or trendy or anything like that. It's really a matter of it feeling like a safe place that brings you joy and that represents your personality, not somebody else's. And so there's nothing that can make a home feel more like home than joy and love. And I don't know, just being able to, even when people can see how we operate as a family. Our son works with us as well. So when we go somewhere and it's a husband and wife and a son and we're having fun and we're not yelling at each other and we're most of the time we're having fun. but we're working as a team and we have clear roles of who handles what. It just, to us, it's like it's an opportunity for God to show how he gives us a role and a purpose that maybe can be unique to who you are. And I don't know, it's just been very encouraging to us how God, his way of directing our path hasn't at all looked like what we thought it would look like, but it's been better. And when you put your life in his hands and you trust him with all those details, it's always better.
Yeah.
And so that's really grown and stretched our faith and bonded our family, I would say.
That is great.
oh, so great.
Yeah. Do you have any a piece of advice or something about someone who's thinking about going into business together with their spouse, or maybe they already have, or yeah, what would
Don't.
be that little nugget that
No,
you
I'm
share?
kidding.
Well, that's the funny thing is when we were researching this, that's kind of what the consensus across the board is. If you're considering going into business with your spouse, don't do it.
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit alarming, like, yikes, this could be bad.
Yeah.
And there were definitely many stressful moments where we thought maybe we should reconsider this. Maybe I should get a different job and he should just, but we have recognized we cannot do what we do one without the other. He can't do what he does without me, and I can't do what I do without him. And we just bring very different things to the table. He's the business mind, and he is the actual hands-on as far as making things and installing them. But I'm the visionary, and I am the creative one, and I'm quality control.
Yeah, she's quality control.
And so
She will let me know quick if something ain't right.
But so I think my biggest piece of advice would be, if you're going to do it, just be sure to have communication about who is
Yeah.
in charge of what and what those roles are going to look like, because I think our struggles have been when there are things that need to be done that we never um, communicated who was in charge of. And our struggle, again, we mentioned the discouragement piece, has been a challenge for us. There's times where it's easy to get discouraged, and we always, we talked about it in the beginning, but as long as we have those discouraging moments at different times, we're usually able to help encourage the other. And
Great.
and sometimes, like, your discouragement level, if you were to say it's on a scale of 1 to 10, he might be at a 2 and just kind of minorly discouraged, and I'm at like a 7 or 8 and I'm majorly discouraged. And so that's when, okay, I can be the one to lift us up, or vice versa. And so we do have to pay attention. There are times where I can tell he is really physically exhausted. So if he gets kind of snippy, it's exhaustion speaking. It's not him legitimately being upset with me. And then the same is true for me. If I'm beyond like I hit this wall and I am done, like
Yeah.
beyond done. Like, you cannot get anything else out of me. And
One day, she just vanished. I was like, where did she go? And I went back out to the truck. She's in the truck with the air conditioning blasting, a cold drink in her hand, and she was streaming Netflix.
Yeah.
She was like, I'm done. Can't do anything else.
I cannot do one more thing. But that was before we had made the boundaries, and we were at somebody's house, and it was like 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have nothing else to give. And so you're welcome to continue to work, but I'm not going to continue.
And I did. I worked
He
another
did.
2 hours.
He did.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I wasn't upset with him for it. I just knew my limit, and he knew
Yeah.
a little bit more he was able to give.
My
So,
best advice is to learn how to press the reset button.
yeah.
And this is something that we've learned just in our marriage in general, but we have to regularly do this where maybe she's upset or I'm upset or something's going on where we're just one of our needs aren't being met, or there's tension in the air. We both recognize it. Obviously, it's an elephant in the room if you don't, and we just will look at each other. One of us will, and she'll say it or I say it, and we'll just say, "Hey, can we just hit the reset button?"
That's
And
good.
what to us, what we know that means now is, I love you, she loves me. Maybe we said the wrong thing in the wrong way or do it something the wrong way, but if we could just hit the reset button and remember that we're for each other, that we're committed to each other, that nothing matters more than each other to each other. And all we have to say is now is just, hey, let's just hit the reset button. And it's a quick and easy way for us to just kind of put the things that don't matter and that are kind of irrelevant maybe at the moment
Yeah.
to just do a reset. Now that can also be dangerous if you're just kind of stuffing things and never talking about things.
Right.
So it's not, you can't always just hit reset.
True.
Maybe pin it for another time when maybe the tension isn't so high, or we're not so tired, or maybe we haven't eaten in like 5 hours and we just need a sandwich,
Yeah.
So that's been a critical part of our working together, is the ability to just say reset. And if one of us says it, the other one just says, you know what, you're right. I'm gonna just let it go.
Yeah.
And if we pull that card, it's usually because we're very much aware that whatever has us irritable in the moment is so minor in the scheme of life.
Yeah.
It's not a legit issue that needs to be worked out. It's literally just us having an off moment.
Yeah.
And that's been really useful. And giving each other the benefit of the doubt, just assuming the best about the other, has also helped us tremendously in stressful times.
And if it at all sounds like we don't have flaws or problems, you just need to be clear with your audience. We are highly flawed with lots of problems, with regular issues. And so you're just getting the highlight reel right now.
Yeah, for sure.
We are, but you're also being very real with us on, how you navigate things like hitting the reset button. How are you communicating, and knowing, being able to set those boundaries, and understanding that, Jenny's boundaries are different from Trevor's boundaries, and to have to go out to the truck and stream Netflix, like your introverted self hit that wall.
Yes.
I'm so done. Like
100% done.
But just being able to respect that about each other, like when the more you know about the other person and how you tick, it's like respecting that and supporting that is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. That, it was so funny that night. Austin was like, "Where's mom?" I was like, "She's Netflix in the truck. Leave her alone."
And
that's okay. We're all going to be okay with that because we all need.
But I also I'm well aware of there is a time and a place where that would be possible, and a time and a place where it would definitely not. 8 o'clock at night, I would think that would be an acceptable time. 2 in the afternoon, maybe not so much. And again, our work ebbs and flows, so there are times where it's heavy on his side, and then there's times where it's heavy on my side. At that point in time, it was all him. It was not, my contribution wasn't what we were relying on at that point. So
one other thing, you can use it or not, but we work on site Monday through Thursday on jobs. But Friday is quote day, because the thing about our business is that we have to regularly be having new jobs come in. Otherwise, there's no work. So the quoting process, the sales process is very critical to what we're doing right now. And so Fridays we've dedicated that to be quote day, but I look forward to it so much because Monday through Thursday I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I'm stinky. We're working hard, we're building something, installing something. But Friday, man, I get up and I get a fresh shower. I'm clean. I'm looking my
I
best.
knew that was
And we
coming.
and we'll either do a brunch or a lunch together at a restaurant we like, and it turns the whole day into just a fun day where I'm looking forward to hanging out with her just as the love of my life, and we just
Oh,
happen to be doing some sales in the process.
yeah.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Yeah, you just change it up, keep it fresh, I think
Mhm.
is what that's all about. So,
And I think
yeah.
that's like pouring that quality time into each other and into your marriage, to have that
Yeah.
Friday set aside of like, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to focus on. And yeah, it's still about business, but like you said, you pick a place to go to brunch or lunch and just spend time together,
Yep.
prioritizing your
Look
spouse. It's
for it every
big.
week.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we are so looking forward to this podcast coming out. We loved having you on today. And just thank you so much
Sure.
for coming on the show and sharing. I think you had a lot of really good stories that, some other people can hear and maybe glean some good knowledge from, and maybe some
Thank you.
people are going to find some encouragement through things that you've said and hopefully really understand the importance of having God in the center of these business decisions and in the center of your marriage. So, so we
Yeah,
can,
absolutely.
get through this life in the best way possible. So,
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
where can people find out about your home renovation work that you do if they are interested in anything?
Absolutely. Our website is ourhomedecorva.com. VA is for Virginia. Or if you're on Facebook or Instagram, you can just at Our Home Decor VA to see our portfolio. Reach out to us.
Yeah, that would be great. And we will have that all down in the show notes for our listeners.
Nice. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining us. And before we go, I wanted to tell you that are listening, we have a free core values exercise for married couples, and you can grab it. It's on our website, and we'll have a link to that in the show notes. And I think this is a really appropriate resource for you based upon what we talked about with Trevor and Jenny, because it's all about learning what your core values are, and then you can have a very connecting conversation about those core values to help strengthen your marriage. And maybe it'll help you hit that reset button a little bit better if you know each other's values a little bit more. So,
Yeah.
but thank you so much for tuning in. We so appreciate your time, and we can't wait for the next episode. Take care until then.